Hi everyone, welcome to That Psychology podcast where I explore the challenges we often face in our 20s, their psychological background, and how to navigate them. The goal is to better understand ourselves, our emotions, our identity, personality, relationships, and the way our brains work, and in turn, to better understand others. So my name is Paula, and I'm a psychology student at the University of Amsterdam. I'm in my 20s myself. I'm not a professional psychologist, just so you know, and this isn't any professional guidance. I'm just exploring the journey of figuring things out myself and sharing what I'm learning along the way. Hi everyone, welcome back to That Psychology podcast. You know that feeling when you leave work or class and realize it's already dark outside? It's amazing how quickly the days get shorter and our brains pick up on it. I personally observed that it's harder for me to stay motivated. I have a bit less energy throughout the day, and even planning the day and getting through my to-dos feels kind of tougher. Like my usual rhythm just isn't quite clicking, I'd say. And I know some of you can relate to that, so I thought why not unpack what psychology says our brains need in this cozy season and share some practical tips so we can get through the season feeling a little bit more alive and a bit less in hibernation like bears. So in this episode we're digging into what's really going on with our brains in fall-winter season and what to do to feel better. So first of all, in the fall-winter season we have so-called shorter days, which means we have reduced photo period daily. So there is less sunlight than in spring and summer, at least if you live in mid or high latitude regions, because near the equator, the day length changes very little throughout the year. And this disrupts the brain's circadian rhythm. So in other words, your body's natural 24-hour clock that tells you when to sleep, when to wake up, and do other daily activities. This circadian rhythm changes based on the season, based on how much natural light we get per day. This has some biological and psychological consequences. First of all, it leads to a decrease in the essential neurotransmitter serotonin. Serotonin, often called the happiness hormone, is involved in eating behaviors, mood, sleep, among others. Another key neurotransmitter in the brain impacted by these seasonal changes is melatonin, often called the sleep hormone. Melatonin is released in our brain in response to darkness, so it regulates our sleep cycle and has an important role in regulating our circadian rhythm. And both of these hormones react to the changes in light. So with less light exposure in fall and winter, our serotonin and melatonin metabolism changes. Serotonin gets quickly inactivated and has a shorter effect than in summer season, which can result in more fatigue, decreased mood, more mood shifts, decreased energy, and even changes in appetite. Melatonin, on the other hand, has an extended secretion period during the fall and winter because the nights are longer, so we encounter more darkness. And when melatonin is overproduced, we tend to feel more tired, sleepy, lethargic. So these biological responses to seasonal light changes don't affect everyone equally. In some people, they can develop into what we call seasonal affective disorder, SAD. Seasonal affective disorder is a type of depression that's related to changes in seasons, and it happens at more or less the same time every year, during fall and winter. Symptoms may include fatigue, hypersomnia, so sleeping too much, losing interest in activities you once enjoyed, social withdrawal, gaining weight, and there are two subtypes of SAD. The first one is subsyndromal SAD, a milder form of the disorder with similar but less severe symptoms. And the second type is summer SAD, in which depressive episodes are triggered by environmental factors like heat waves and tropical nights, typically during the summer. It's much less prevalent though. So how common is seasonal affective disorder, you might ask? The truth is, it depends on where you live, because it varies by the latitude, and also different studies use different diagnostic tools and populations, so we cannot say for sure for now. But it is estimated that the worldwide prevalence of SAD is about 5% and up to 10% for folks living in higher latitudes. So for the milder SAD, it's about 10%. And for summer SAD, it's about 0.5%, so much less prevalent. And a recent meta-analysis shows that actually living at higher latitudes, like in Scandinavia, Iceland, Canada, I think southern Argentina, living there is linked to a higher risk of SAD and SSAD, so this milder version. Perhaps you'd also like to check if you have it and when to seek professional help. So the first step is to determine how much your symptoms interfere with your daily life. If you have mild symptoms for less than 2 weeks, like just having some trouble sleeping, having less energy than usual, right? So like feeling down, but still generally being able to take care of yourself, then you may want to incorporate some pick-me-up activities, like doing something you enjoy, more physical activity, going outside to get some fresh air and more natural light. But if you have more severe symptoms for more than 2 weeks, such as hypersomnia, so oversleeping, social withdrawal, feeling sad majority of the time, gaining weight, among others, then you should talk to a professional. Treatment usually involves psychotherapy and something called bright light therapy, which is basically a special light box that mimics natural daylight. And the idea is that our brains respond to it as if it were real sunlight, which can help regulate our circadian rhythm. And the next thing I want to cover is the role of nutrition. So this is for some reason like the least handsome part of the podcast for me, I'd say. I tend to underestimate the role of food in my life a lot, but apparently the saying "you are what you eat" holds some truth. Our brain chemistry is influenced by our diet, especially in low light seasons like fall and winter. So if you remember from the beginning of the episode, during colder months, serotonin, the happiness hormone, is decreased. And that can lead to mood deregulation and appetite changes. It turns out nutritional intake can help modulate these effects because certain nutrients, so certain foods, support neurotransmitter synthesis, which means that there are several types of food recognized for their positive effects on brain function. So first of all, foods which can help increase the level of serotonin in our brains are kiwi, oranges, walnuts, turkey, and also beverages such as tea, for example, matcha tea. So the main sources are fruits, vegetables, and seeds. Another one is omega-3 fatty acids, which support cognitive functioning and memory, for instance. They also support the immune system, and they can be found in fish like salmon, mackerel, chia seeds, healthy oils. Yet another important nutrient to take care of is vitamin D. And vitamin D levels in the brain often drop in fall and winter because there's less sunlight, and sunlight is the primary source of vitamin D synthesis in the skin. Apart from the sun, vitamin D can be supplemented via supplements and different foods. And it's a crucial nutrient because it helps build our bones and it keeps them healthy. And it also supports our immune health and keeps our brain cells healthy. Vitamin D deficiency is a common health issue, especially during fall and winter months. And the fastest way to know whether you need more vitamin D is to do a blood test. And here again, the oily fish entered the chat. So salmon, tuna, herring, also egg yolks, and cheese. And to make it more interesting and doable, I asked ChatGPT for some super easy 10 to 15 minute dinner recipes which would help our brain health. And here are some suggestions. The first one is quick salmon and veggies. So ChatGPT says, roast a salmon fillet and steam some vegetables. You can use broccoli, carrots, or whatever veggies you have on hand. Add pumpkin seeds on top. The second one is turkey and spinach wrap. Using a whole wheat tortilla with turkey spinach and some fruit like orange or apple slices for a serotonin boost. And for breakfast, it suggests egg and cheese veggie scramble. So scramble eggs with spinach, mushrooms, or other veggies and add a little cheese. So apparently it doesn't have to be complicated, according to ChatGPT. That sounds quite delicious. And so apart from the role of nutrition, another thing is that when days become shorter, some people tend to isolate. And social isolation can be both a coping strategy in depression and seasonal affective disorder, SAD, because withdrawing may be a way to conserve energy for people. And also from the evolutionary point of view, our ancestors would withdraw socially as a way to signal to others in the group that they needed help, that they needed care. And so by withdrawing, other members of the group would support them and thus increase their chances of survival. Smart, right? So it's adaptive at one point to isolate socially, but to some extent also prolonged social isolation can worsen symptoms by reducing social support. So because people have become very good at hiding their true feelings, so it may be that they do not get this support as much. And so then feelings of loneliness go up and it's even worse for our well-being. Social interactions are important because they stimulate the release of brain chemicals that promote mental well-being, such as oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, serotonin too, so the happy hormone, and dopamine, the feel-good hormone. So it is essential that we keep positive human interactions regularly because we usually feel less stressed and more connected after interacting with people. And this can actually reduce the risk of depression and seasonal affective disorder. And what I would recommend is having a social ritual, so like a weekly meetup with friends, studying together, movie nights, daily walks with your partner, whatever works for you. It does not have to be very big, like small interactions also count, like check-ins, maybe even online. There are some opportunities like virtual book clubs, some kind of hobby forums, what feels most comfortable for you. And last but not least, I want to touch on some practical tips on what to do to feel better during this season. Firstly, regular exercise. This one is a very simple let's say cure, because physical activity releases endorphins and increases serotonin levels in the brain. And that is exactly what we need during the cozy season when we have generally less serotonin in our brains, so it's actually the perfect solution to boost our mood. Secondly, taking in the natural light by taking a walk, for instance, or investing in a special daylight lamp. One medical source recommends at least 30 minutes of outdoor daylight exposure, but if you don't have that much time, then any amount of time already can help you feel better. And speaking about the light, you may also try to limit the blue light exposure from electronic devices, especially during the night before sleep. That's because, to put it shortly, in our eyes, actually in the retinal cells, we have a specific pigment called melanopsin. And this pigment is especially sensitive to blue light. So when these cells detect blue light that's coming from your phone or your laptop, they send a signal to the brain to stop producing melatonin. And that makes it harder to fall asleep then. Apart from that, try to keep a balanced diet rich in, as mentioned before, omega-3 acids, vitamin D, also if you need an actual supplement, and serotonin-boosting foods. And lastly, what I do is I try to have my own rituals that help me feel cozy and grounded, engaging my senses as well, like lighting a candle up in the evening, morning stretch in the sun, if I'm lucky that there is sun, playing ASMR sounds of a crackling. That's so specific, but yeah, just playing ASMR sounds of nature or some crackling fire. That can also help. Drinking warm drinks throughout the day. all of these small habits, exercise, having natural light, sleep hygiene, small rituals, they aren't just nice to haves. They help your body do what it's naturally designed to do. Evolution didn't design our bodies to live under fluorescent lights and Netflix. We're wired for seasons, for light, for movement, for rest, for connection. So the real question isn't how do I beat winter? It might be how do I live like a human during winter? Imagine what changes if you start there. And I have a little challenge for you. So pick one thing that you heard today which caught your interest and try it this week. It might be a morning light exposure, less blue light before sleep, some small ritual of your choice. Try it for 7 days. Notice how it feels. And if you try one of these ideas and it helps you, tell me about it. Drop a comment or DM me. Your experience might give someone else a spark of hope, or even start a conversation that makes the season easier for someone you'll probably never meet. If this episode inspired you, a 5-star rating goes a long way in helping others find it too. And as always, if you have questions or topics you'd love me to explore next, just reach out. I'm always curious. Thank you for listening, guys, and see you in the next episode.